If you apply for your permit in Sweden, especially if you're applying for permanent resident permit, after you might have spent the initial 5 years, for those of you who come from other EU country where you come with permanent resident permit of another EU country into Sweden, there are there are things they consider before your application is being accepted or granted to you for the status of permanent resident in Sweden. First of all, when you fill your form for permanent resident permit, you paid your fee that associated with it. They will send you a request for payment after they have accepted, you receive your application form. Remember, you should not wait for your 5 years permit to expire before you submit for permanent residence. But before then, you must make sure that you have lived in Sweden for complete 5 years without remaining one day. If you remain in one day for you to complete 5 years of your residence in Sweden before you submit your application form, they will reject your application. So you must calculate your stay in Sweden from the day you receive your first permit in Sweden, or from the day you registered with the Swedish tax agency, the day you register and get either your condition number or your pension number. You begin to count from that day. You don't count from the day you enter into Sweden from another country, because as of that time, you have not received their own permit of stay. But that date that you enter into Sweden is very important to you. They want to know because it's in the system. Everything is you that will supply it. The day you enter into Sweden, the ticket you use, go and keep it because you will need it. They need all those photocopies. Keep it. Then, if you as a family, the first person that come to Sweden, maybe the husband or the wife first come, after you might have settled down, you have your first permit, then you now decide to bring in your family members to Sweden. You and them are not the same. That 5 years permit they give you, when you apply for your family members, they will also give them the same 5 years. The permit will expire the same day. But pay attention. You and them didn't have, the day you completed your 5 years of residence in Sweden is not the same day they completed their 5 years of residence in Sweden. This is where many people make mistake. They have to wait until they completed 5 years of the day they submitted their own application form that give them the same permit that you have before you apply for the permanent resident card. If you submit together until that your permit expiring the same day, you submit both their own and your own the same time, they will refuse all of you and give you another 5 years. And if you travel out of Sweden within that period of 5 years, it should not exceed 6 months, because they calculated it. That 6 months must be inside that 5 years duration. If you exceed 6 months, they calculate it as not being complete 5 years. These are also very important for those of you who will travel, they've stayed after more than 6 months, because you feel that you have 5 years permit, that you anytime you can come in, you can come in. But once it reach the time for you to apply for their permanent residence, those things will stand against you. So each travel you make sure that you keep the date of those travel, because they will ask you for you to provide history of your travel since you have arrived Sweden. They will calculate it before they will decide if they will approve your permit or not. Then another thing is house where you are living. That someone give you address where you are receiving letter, they will not give you based on that when you are asking for permanent resident status in Sweden. You must have your own house, not 1 year contract, but a house that is open, maybe Boprat are giving you house, or maybe company give you house that is open, that it is not on 1 year contract or 2 years contract. No, it must be open. That has, you have to sign it, that it is you that will take the company when you wanted to leave, not then giving you expiring date. So also is your work with the place where you are working. You must have permanent work contract. At least you might have worked in that with permanent contract for a period of 4 years. It might be in one company, but to have permanent contract, maybe from this company you go to another company, but the first one is permanent contract you have, the second one is permanent contract, but it must read for a total of 4 years before they will consider you that you are eligible to be admitted into Sweden on a permanent resident card. Once you have that permanent resident card, you don't need all these things again. All you need to do is for you to go ahead to apply for the Swedish citizen. So that is why they went through, or they go through all this screening to make sure that you are eligible. As of now, law can change tomorrow. They may begin to add from 2026 language test on it, but as of 2025, the law have not been in effect. So the earlier the better you do this. So these are the things that you need to do. You need to know. And again, if you have asked for support from social, they are helping, they are paying you some money, you are not qualified for permanent resident in Sweden. If housing corporation are helping to pay your house rent, you are not qualified for permanent resident in Sweden. All these things you are going to bring a letter from those offices saying whether you are receiving support or whether you are not receiving support. Again, they are going to look into your salary that you are receiving. The threshold is increasing every time. For family, I think it's almost 40,000 krona you have to have. Then you and your wife, if you are working, can bring in together. But if one person is working, the wife is not working, or the husband is not working, one person is working, if the threshold you people have is not up to the threshold of the Swedish government, they may likely to refuse you visa based on that. So you also need to go log in into the Swedish migration site to know the current threshold. Make sure you know all these points which I mentioned. If you are confused about that, please drop at the comment section, ask questions, I will clarify you to make sure that you get it right, because most of the time, many of our people, foreigners who are living in Sweden, are making this mistake. They end up being refused their permanent resident status. One, you should know that your work is very important. Your salary that you're receiving is very important. Your house is very important. You must have lived in Sweden for good number of years, 5 years, without breaching the number of years, and other things that follow. So these are the updates which I bring to you. If you have any other question, as I said before, drop at the comment section. I wish you all the best, and God bless you.